Alright, I am back with another video, and today, I don't know, is this a build request or not? Somebody in the comments suggested, after I kind of made my couple of builds that seem to, fall in the lines of those who might be chosen of certain deities within Baldur's Gate. For example, my Draconian Warrior may be a chosen of Bahamut. My Slasher build, my Halloween build, may be a chosen of Baal, as in with the Dark Urge, and my most recent build, the Priest of Balance, might have been the Mystic Theurge, which isn't my most recent build, but you get the point, may have been a chosen of Mystra. So somebody suggested that, hey, I should do builds for all of the deities, a chosen warrior of every deity. And I thought, you know what, that sounds like fun. Immediately my mind jumped to the drow deity Alistray, who is like kind of the, I guess, drow redemption god. You know, a deity who seems to be fighting against the evil drow god, who is also their mother, to kind of redeem the drow and turn them into a good aligned race. That seemed really, really interesting to me, and I immediately had a weapon in mind that I wanted to try. But the more I kind of built this character, the more I felt like this was actually more of an evil aligned drow, leaning more towards Lolth, and I feel like the character that I've come up with here is really, really interesting. So for those of you that don't know, Lolth is the evil patron of the drow. She is also known as the Spider Queen, so her whole thing is about like spiders and living in the Underdark and all that good stuff you associate with drow, or bad stuff, I suppose. So I decided to go for a spider-themed build with this, using a drow as the main focus character, and going for as much kind of spider-themed items and, abilities as possible. So, let's get into the build. We're going to be a ranger for this build, mainly because this is going to get us a big feature that is spider-related, and you can probably already guess what that is. But let's get into the abilities. So, we get Favored Enemy, and we're going to be taking Bounty Hunter, because this is going to work with our Ensnaring Strike feature. Basically, whenever we cast Ensnaring Strike, our enemies have disadvantage on their saving throw to resist being restrained. This is going to be important later. As for our Natural Explorer, we're going to be taking Beast Tamer. You have cultivated a strong bond with animals, so you can cast Find Familiar without expending a spell slot once per short rest. If you didn't know, one of the familiars you can summon with Find Familiar is a spider, so we already have a little spider companion that can complete various tasks for us. A nice little extra, not essential to the build, but can come up in niche situations and is very much on theme. As for your stats, this is about what you want it to look like. I think it's the same as my last build, the Priest of Balance. This is kind of we're using a strength weapon, so unfortunately we do have to put points into strength here, but if you wanted to change this up, you can. Dexterity is at 12, we're going to be wearing medium armor, so this is kind of just about right for it. Not the highest you could go, but definitely satisfactory. Constitution, would like it to be higher, but as of course we are split quite thin with our ability scores here. And also Wisdom to help with the saving throws on our spells like Ensnaring Strike and others. So yeah, let's keep going. Next up, we are going to be getting Ranger level 2, and we're going to be getting some interesting things from this. First of all, we finally get our first Ranger spells, and we're going to be taking Ensnaring Strike, absolutely. This is important because it enables a lot of strategies with this build. As for your second spell, I would say definitely take Hail of Thorns. It is quite a powerful build, and we're going to be using a decently strong bow on this build, so I definitely think this is worth grabbing. You're also going to get a fighting style. As I said before, we are going to be using a bow in this build, so you could go for archery if you like. If you feel like you wanted to lean more into the bow aspect of this build and not have like a strength-based weapon, you can just go full dex and go with that. But I quite liked having the option to use both here, kind of like a true ranger. Now, as for our subclass, you absolutely saw it coming. We are going Beastmaster. You'd think Gloomstalker would be perfect for a drow build, but honestly, Beastmaster is going to come with some really cool and thematic stuff, and I've never really gotten to build a Beastmaster yet, unless you count the V-Build's solo alternative, which I did use in my combat showcase for those characters, but honestly, I feel like this is more of a interesting and more on-theme type of build that really, really works. We're gonna go Beastmaster here, which is going to allow us to summon a Ranger's Companion. One of these companion options is a wolf spider, which comes with a varying array of really unique abilities that only get better as they level up, including being able to web apart enemies, ensnaring them, creating difficult terrain, wrapping them in cocoons, infesting them with spider eggs, causing damage, dealing poison damage. There's a lot of really cool stuff that the wolf spider companion can do. So I definitely want to be able to grab it here. And I feel like a chosen of Lolth having a like kind of divinely granted spider companion and familiar and all that really works on theme. Like they gain like a guardian spider. But I think that's quite cool. You get another spell at this level. Hunter's Mark is really good. You can just use it as your bonus action. We're not really going to be concentrating on much else at this point, so it's extra free damage. We're also going to get a racial bonus for being a drow here. We're going to get Fairy Fire, which you can use once per long rest. It's nice if you want to spend your concentration on it. It can definitely help out your companions by giving you and them attack rolls, advantage on attack rolls. My apologies. Next up at Ranger level 4, we're going to be gathering our first feat. Now, I'm going to kind of do the same thing I did with my Priest of Balance build and recommend that you bump anything but Strength up by 2. Strength you can bump up by 2 by getting the Potion of Everlasting Strength in Act 2, which is when you get most of the equipment for this build and it really starts to take off. So you definitely want to kind of grab that then. So at this point you can do whatever you like. If you want higher, basically a higher chance to land your ensnaring strengths, which are important to this build, you can definitely grab a higher level of wisdom. If you want more health, go for a higher level of constitution. If you want more AC, go for a higher level of dexterity. It really is your choice. You can also go for the sharpshooter feat if you're focusing more on the bow side of things. However, I'm not using much equipment in this build that offsets the penalty that you get from sharpshooter, but of course you can change that up if you like. I'm going to be mainly focusing on ability score improvements here, and I do want that 18 wisdom to really ensure we get those ensnaring strikes off. At Ranger level 5, we're going to be getting extra attack, which is always nice to have. We're getting this at the usual level you would get it for a natural progression. It's kind of weird to go mostly single class for a character, I must admit. We're also going to be getting Companion's Bond. Your proficiency bonus is added to the armor class and damage rolls of your companion. This means our spider is now even more powerful. We're also going to be getting access to level 2 spells at this point. Take whatever you like, it really doesn't matter. Spike Growth is quite a good spell. Can create more difficult terrain for enemies. Silence is always good if you want to shut down spellcasters, and it's probably what I'm actually going to be taking here. As our racial feature, we're also going to be getting Darkness at this level, so this can be quite powerful. Yes, we only get it once per long rest, but even one use of Darkness is enough to cause some serious hell. At Ranger level 6, we're going to be getting an extra dosage of Favoured Enemy and Natural Explorer. Favoured Enemy, you can pick whatever you like. I would personally go Ranger Knight if you decide you wanted to use heavy armor on this build, and it's nice to have that little bit of freedom to do so, as none of these other options really stand out to me. Protection from Evil and Good is a meh spell at best. True Strike is True Strike, and don't bother. And Sanctified Stalker gives you Sacred Flame, but it's not really necessary on this build when we've got so much better options through our weapons and armor, so it's not really worth just having Sacred Flame to be able to cast it. But heavy armor proficiency is always nice to have that freedom if you decide you wanted to change things up. As for your Natural Explorer, take whatever you like here. Slight spoiler alert, we are using that bow, so you're going to be getting cold and fire resistance regardless. So poison resistance could be nice, or if you want sleight of hand proficiency, go for that. I'm going to take the poison resistance because I feel like it's on theme. You work with spiders, and you're a drow. Probably going to be quite resistant to poison at this point. You've been bitten quite a few times. At Ranger level 7, we're going to be getting another subclass feature, and this is going to be our Exceptional Training. Your animal companion can now dash, disengage, and help as a bonus action, basically getting the good stuff that Rogue gets level 2, which I think is actually quite cool. The Beastmaster class is actually really fun. I know I said it sucked, like in a very old video, but I meant like the D&D 5e version. The version in this game is awesome. Again, take whatever you like here. Longstrider or Enhanced Sleep are always good. Healing's always good. Dark Vision, you kind of already have that. Speak of animals, if you want to go that route, I'm personally going to probably take Longstrider just because it's always a nice buff to have that you can just place on yourself and your companion for free. Next up is Ranger level 8, where we're going to be getting another feat alongside a class feature, which means difficult terrain no longer slows us down. Nice. Again, you could take Sharpshooter at this level, you could grab Mobile, anything you like really. I'm just going to take another ability score improvement, and I'm going to bump up my Constitution so we have more HP. At Ranger level 9, we're going to be getting another spell, and I believe we're onto level 3 spells at this point. Now, you have a choice here. I would take either Conjure Barrage or Lightning Arrow, and I think Lightning Arrow is a really fun spell that you don't really get to use very often in this game, because Ranger level 9 is the only thing that has it, aside from one crossbow that you get very, very late into the game. So having Lightning Arrow on this build is just a nice bit of extra damage. It does a little bit of AoE on the target you hit with it, so you can hit enemies that are next to it as well. Just an overall very fun spell to use. At Ranger level 10, we're going to be getting another class feature, as well as another dosage of Favourite Enemy and Natural Explorer. We get the Hide in Plain Sight feature, which means we get to become invisible and gain a +10 bonus to stealth checks as long as we stand still. Weird fact, Warlocks can get this at level 5, I think. Or even level... No, they can get it at level 2. This is one of the first things you can get as a Warlock Invocation, which I just find is funny, that we get it at level 10 of Ranger. But anyways, I digress. This is an interesting feature. I mean, if you want to become... if you want to master the art of standing still so that you become invisible, you can certainly do that. Drax would be proud. But otherwise, this is kind of just a meh feature that I don't think is going to come up very often. Maybe if you wanted to, like, Metal Gear hide in a box kind of style your way through stealth sections, but I doubt that's going to come up. But as for our favourite enemy, you can take whatever you like here. I really don't think any of these matters. I'm just going to grab Sanctifying Stalker. And again, I don't think any of these matters. Again, we're going to be having these two resistances anyway, so grab Urban Tracker. At Ranger level 11, we're going to be getting our final subclass feature, which is our Bestial Fury, which means now your companion can use extra attack. Yeah, extra attack at level 11. Don't get me wrong, extra attack is good, but getting it this late feels a bit rough. And, well, yeah, it just feels rough. I'm going to take Conjure Barrage at this level, because again, it's one of those spells you don't get to use often, and it feels really nice to just have the full kit of a Ranger and what makes them unique. Finally, at level 12, I mean, you could multi-class at this point if there's some level 1 feature you want, but, I mean, you'll have to get creative with that. I'm personally just going to take the level 12 feat, and like I said, I'm just going to go for an ability score improvement, and I think I'm going to take the buff to my dexterity, just to get that little bit of extra AC, but honestly, buff up anything you like. Take your strength to 20, take your wisdom to 20, it doesn't really matter. The stats can be played around with. I'm deliberately limiting myself by my equipment here, so definitely feel free to change this up if you're using something like a finesse weapon. It would definitely make this build stronger. And that is the build, so I kind of have to answer a big question right off the bat. Why no multi-classing? I always multi-class with my builds, and that's what makes them unique. Going just 12 levels of Beastmaster Ranger seems a bit boring. Well, I find it really, really hard to multi-class out of Beastmaster Ranger. And I feel like while I do think that Beastmaster Ranger is extremely strong in this game because your companions get to do so much, it also comes with the weakness that you basically have to be dedicated to only leveling up Beastmaster Ranger in order to get all those features, otherwise your companions are going to feel rather underwhelming in comparison to pretty much every other type of build you could make. So it really doesn't make much sense to not go to at least level 11 with them. Maybe a 1 level of fighter at the start and then go the rest of the way Ranger, but it feels really, really hard if you want to actually use your animal companion to justify multi-classing out of it. In addition to that, if you just go with multi-classing with a Beastmaster Ranger and you're not getting that power of your companion, then it kind of feels like you just wasted your subclass choice. But obviously, this is kind of something you guys can play around with if there's some cool combinations I haven't thought of. Definitely comment it below. I love looking at these suggestions you guys send me. They are so fun and so creative. You guys are awesome. But let's actually get into the equipment, because I think this is where this build gets kind of interesting and kind of makes it a bit different than just your standard Beastmaster Ranger. So, let's get into it. Let's get into the helmet first. We have the Dark Justiciar helmet here. The wielder has a +1 bonus against saving throws against spells. While obscured, the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This just comes from the fact that rangers aren't just inherently stealthy, and you may want to go into using, stealth-based abilities throughout your campaign, getting that surprise attack with your bow at the very start, and this helps with that. It's also just a decent helmet you can get at the during Act 2, so you might as well just grab it when you can. The Deathstalker Mantle, since this is an evil character, I'm going to assume you might play Dark Urge with this, and of course the Deathstalker Mantle is amazing. It's one of the most powerful cloaks in the game, and it's going to give you a ton of unique features and is thematic with this build. Once you kill an enemy, you become invisible for 2 turns, and there is no limit on this. It's not once per short rest, not once per long rest. It is awesome. Definitely grab this, play Dark Urge, and feel like a truly evil character in service of your evil patron, or god, whatever you want to call it. The Sharpened Snare Cuirass. This is just a really nice looking piece of medium armor that you can get quite easily in Act 2. That adds your full dexterity modifier to your armor class, so it's a bit like the Armor of Agility, where you can get a lot more out of it. And creatures have disadvantage on saving throws while resisting your attacks and spells that inflict restrained. Kinda stacks with well, it doesn't really stack, it kind of just, it kind of exists parallel to our existing Ranger feature. That being the Urban Tracker, so you might find that this is a bit useless, but I just thought it looks so good on this build, and this is coloured black and white with the Harlequin black and white dye, and I just feel like it's such a good looking armour. Feels like it came straight out of the Underdark. It's awesome, so I had to show it off here, since it does kind of feel on theme with the whole ensnaring your targets thing if you don't want to take that feature early on with Ranger. This is the Abyss Beckoners. Now, these gloves are quite interesting. You get the Demon Spirit Aura. The wearer's summoned creatures, and this is all creatures within this aura around you, it's got a radius to it, have resistance to all damage except Psychic, meaning that your summoned companion is now as tanky as a Wildheart Bear Bard. But it comes with a caveat. At the start of the summoned creature's turn, it must succeed a Wisdom saving throw or be driven mad. However, there's a way to cheese this. A bit. This is a toggleable feature, as you can see here. And this can be toggled in combat for free, no problem. So you can turn this on and off as you'd like. So you can kind of play around with ways to kind of get around the weakness by toggling it on and off at the right points. However, I found that with the Wolf Spider, at least, in my testing and the combat footage you might see in a minute, I would say that your companion is going to pass this check 80% of the time, and even if they don't, you can just position yourself in a way that the enemy is closer to them than you are, so that they're always just going to attack the enemy anyway. So as long as you play it right, there's really no downside to using these. You just get a massive amount of tankiness on your companion, which is nice to have. And like I say, it's a toggleable feature, so you don't have to worry about them going mad outside of combat as long as you toggle it off. Lastly, this is the Spider Set Boots. You're immune to being webbed, so any of your spider companions' webs that they create aren't going to affect your movement as well and cause you any trouble. Your movement speed is not affected by web surfaces, so you basically get to also travel at full speed on your spider's web surfaces. You can change this to the Disintegrating Nightwalkers if you want, but I use those in so many of my builds that I just wanted to showcase something a little bit different. Our amulet here is the Amulet of Branding. This is going to allow you to cast something called Brand the Weak. This is going to make one enemy of your choice vulnerable to bludgeoning, slashing, or piercing damage, your choice, for 3 turns once per long rest. This is a bit of a boss beater type thing. Basically, you'd go in on a single enemy with this, doing a ton of damage. I think piercing is the way to go, because you could do bow attacks and your spider companions attacks, I believe, are piercing as well because they use their fangs, so you could get a lot of damage out of this. Again, it's once per long rest, but you can definitely use this as kind of a tough, strong boss beater. Very, very cool. Next up is the Eversight Ring. The wearer cannot be blinded. I just kind of threw this on here if you maybe wanted to go for like a strategy based around darkness, and I feel like this works with just kind of being a drow. I kind of just wanted to show off that this ring exists, but it's definitely not necessary. Change it up if you like. And this is the Killer's Sweetheart. Whenever you kill a creature, the next attack roll will be a critical hit. This can only be used once per long rest. Basically, it just gives you the ability to, after you've killed an enemy, at any point you can use your reaction. You can basically use it as kind of like a reaction, but it doesn't take your reaction, to make your next roll a guaranteed critical hit. So you can kind of store a critical hit, making this another aspect of like a boss beater build. So I thought it was pretty cool. If you're finding this build is too ability score dependent, like all around, you can kind of and you find that the Abyss Beckoners are a bit more of a liability, feel free to swap these out for the Gloves of Dexterity, get a bonus to your attack roll, to your attack and damage rolls, and also be able to set your Dexterity score to 18, allowing you to put those points into other things. Yeah, this is just a solid option that you can get in Act 2 quite easily if you don't feel like messing around with these, but I feel like the Abyss Beckoners are quite good and on theme. And like I say, I do think their usage cases are mostly positive, so definitely want to pick this up. Let's get into the weapons. The Cruel Sting, this is what kind of inspired me to make this a Lolth build. A drow elf wielding this weapon deals an additional wonderful poison damage against restrained targets, and also you get the ability ensnaring strands, which basically allows you to use a weird version of ensnaring strike that actually creates a spider web for free. It was so on theme that I absolutely had to use this weapon. You get it in Act 2, and it just is such a fun weapon to actually be able to use. Next up is the Absolute's Protector. If you're playing a bit more of an evil drow build, you might want to go the kind of absolutist route, in which case, if you have the Absolutist brand, all damage received from spells is reduced by 1. You can use the standard shield bash, and you also get the ability to cast Fire Shield, the cold version, once per long rest. Just an extra little bit of utility that you can get during Act 2. Also attainable during Act 2, you saw it coming for Darkfire Shortbow. It's a +2 bow, grants resistance to fire and cold damage, and you get to cast haste on a member of your party or yourself once per long rest. So you can cast this on yourself or your companion. Basically, getting haste for free is great, and the fact that it's in a slot that we're not really going to be using that much, unless you do want to go for a more powerful bow. If you want to go for more of a bow fighter with sharpshooter, I mean, this is still going to work really, really well. So yeah, I feel like this works overall. Before we get into the kind of end stuff, I am just going to quickly show off the Spider Companion. Oh, I need to take a short rest first, so we can have a look at him. Here they are, the Aranea Aculita. Let's have a look at their abilities. So, you are going to get a Venomous Bite. This does piercing damage, as I said, and it can poison the target. If you don't know what poisoning does in this game, let's have a look. They suffer disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. Very, very powerful, and again, at level 11, you can do this with an extra attack, so you get to do this twice. You also get your bonus action, hiding and jumping and disengaging. You get the help action, which is nice. You also get the arachnid jump, which is whatever. I don't think it's that different than the regular jump. They're both done during a bonus action, although the arachnid jump does go a little bit further. Web, expel a flick, flammable webbing that slows enemy creatures within and possibly enwebs them. And enwebs them basically means they cannot move, attack rolls against them have advantage, and while its their attack rolls have disadvantage. It also has disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. This is basically the same as the restrained effect, and it lasts for 10 turns. Super powerful ability. Next up we have the Cocoon ability. Trap a creature in your web to cocoon it. And now what cocooning does, it goes away when they take damage. Trapped in a spider's web, it can't move or take actions, bonus actions, or reactions. Basically, they are completely incapacitated until they take damage, which is really, really good. And lastly, we have Bursting Brood. Launch a clutch of your brood to infest your target. And what this does is the enemy is crawling with tiny spiders that deal 1d4 piercing damage and 1d4 poison damage each turn. Upon being hit with a melee attack, the infestation spreads to the attacker. Upon death, the infestation spreads to all nearby creatures. Removed by fire or acid, doesn't harm etacaps or spiders. Basically, you get to go absolutely crazy, and it lasts until a long rest, which is insane. Also, while these features cannot trigger extra attack, this one can, and can be your extra attack. So, I just thought I'd mention that. Overall, we have 60 HP, which doesn't seem great, especially at endgame levels. However, with the fact that we're going to be resistant to a lot of damage, and the fact that we can also buff this guy up with temporary HP as well, if we so choose, it's tankier than you would expect, especially when we have quite decent AC, that being 21. And these are also the kind of stats that it has, so its wisdom is actually pretty high, which is why this one in particular is able to, save against the maddening effect quite often. You also get a bunch of different things. This is going to deal additional damage to creatures marked by a hunter's mark. Like I say, we get extra attack. When you start your turn on the web surface, you now gain extra movement speed and become resistant to poison damage, so when you set your webs, you get more powerful. Like I say, we have extra attack. They also can make opportunity attacks, and it isn't slowed down by its own web services, because that would be dumb if it was. Yeah, overall, I really liked this build. Again, it's not really anything groundbreaking as far as an interesting multi-class option, but I feel like with the equipment that we have, we get a lot of interesting interactions, and it's just very cool and on theme. And that's what I'm here for, to make cool thematic builds that you can use in your games. And since this is just a straight, like, non-multi-class, no fucking about, 12 levels of Beastmaster Ranger, you're just going to be playing a very strong character throughout the whole campaign. There's not too much caveats with this one, you just get to be strong, and I think that's fun. Yeah, overall, I actually really like this build. Sometimes simple is just better. And I also think this build also works really well for Minthara. If you had her in your playthrough, I feel like this is a pretty decent build to go with for her. But anyways, that is going to do it for me. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think this is going to be somewhat of its own little mini-series. I definitely think I want to kind of keep going with these, you know, chosen of the deity builds. Honestly, it's such a good idea that I'm kind of mad, but I didn't come up with it myself. I don't know how often these builds are going to come up, but I feel like if I do come up with a build that I think fits a deity, I will mention it, or I will specifically build around it. The comment in question that suggested it's being like, hey, you know, if you find a weapon that feels like it works well for a deity, it could be an interesting challenge to build around it, and I feel like Cruel Sting was that weapon for this build. So honestly, yeah, great suggestion. I really, really enjoyed making this. But yeah, that is going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.